Hello, this is Tapped In. My name is Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing sneaky things older grapplers do during rolls. I am guilty as charged. Much of my game is specifically fundamental, slow. I want to muck your gears up and take advantage of what we're doing. So let's putting it this way. Have you ever rolled with an old grappler who just seems to move almost like a snail's pace, a tortoise, but yet somehow you end up in a bad position, get smashed and then tapped, and you don't really know what happened? That's what this is all going to be about. Today, we're going to be talking about those really sneaky, subtle, yet interesting, and like they piqued my interest when I first started seeing it. There was a brown belt that I used to roll with at my first academy. I thought the guy did magic. He got out of everything, and I get it. I was a white blue belt at the time. But there was a way about him that I couldn't grasp at the time. And then his grip strength was something completely unnatural that I had experienced. And then he just had this way of never pushing himself beyond what he wanted. So he never went super fast. He dictated the pace. He slowed everything down to the point where I couldn't move the way I wanted. And then at some point, we were reverse position. He'd be up top. And again, he tightens up the space and then starts applying pressure, gets what he wants. The match was over. Those are the things that I have gravitated to as I've developed my game. When I started, I was 30 when I started, 40 when I got my black belt. So at starting, I just knew that I was not going to have the prime years of athletic ability like someone who had started this whole sport in 20 or in their teens. I understood that right away. I also understood that my game had to be fundamentally and functionally sound, where it didn't put me in positions that I would get injured because of someone's weight. It doesn't mean that I don't have a list of nagging injuries right now. I do. Sometimes they come revisit me, and they go away, and I'm healthy, and then they come back. So don't get me wrong, we're going to have some injuries. But I think the approach that the older grapplers have, it was very fundamentally sound, because at one point, the MMA and self-defense aspect was such a big part of how we addressed jiu-jitsu. I'm not saying that I went to a self-defense gym. I didn't. But I think even in that they didn't explicitly tell you this is self-defense, they were very adamant about you get on top, you stay on top, minimize space, and produce pressure in order to get what you want. So it's fundamentally, I can take that to self-defense. I can take that to MMA. It wasn't driven by barambolos. It wasn't driven by a lot of guards that are really fancy and popular nowadays. It was very simplistic and more on the simple side. So the first thing we're going to discuss is weaponizing pace. Older grapplers control the speed of the round from the onset. They slow things down, so you can't blitz them and you can't create the angles that you'd like. One guard that I absolutely love playing is a reverse De La Riva and half guard. And those two are interchangeable for me because I use them at different ranges. When the knee is down, I'm using traditional half guard. I'm off centering them. I'm John Wayne attempt. I'm kicking them to the opposite side. I'm picking Kimuras. I'm getting underhooks. All these things, because of that half guard mentality and that position, force you to stay on your knees, reducing the angles that you can take and reducing the movement that you can go in either direction, forward or back. If my frames are really good, that's going to be a really slow game. You're not going to be able to cartwheel over me. You're not going to be able to run around the way you might like if you're a younger guy. You're going to have to sit in that position and try to wear down my defenses. At my level, I'm comfortable being there. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. A couple things that I'm looking for are making sure that bottom leg does not allow you to stand. If you get that knee up, it becomes a little bit of a problem. Not that I don't have answers. From that position, I love to get the underhook. I like getting John Wayne to get them to kind of like off center. And I love playing 2-on-1. All these aspects, especially that underhook and the 2-on-1, reduce your approach and your ability to create an offense, further mucking up the gears, forcing you to have to slow down. If we're playing something like I'm sit up, butterfly, and you're able to run around, this is to your advantage, especially if I'm slow and I'm going against one of these other guys that are in their teens, early 20s. It is not a great look for me. I have to constantly move. I have to constantly readjust. They are free to play the game as they wish. So again, I will shoot in and try to get everything into that half. I may even shoot in if they don't drop the knee to reverse Del Hiva. And reverse Del Hiva is another position that I love playing because it slows things down enough for me to start setting up sweeps, or even the one Baron Bowl that I like to play, Kiss of the Dragon. And it puts me in a really good spot because now I'm attached to you. You're not completely free to move around. One of your legs is kind of tucked inside of my guard, and I can start to play a bit better. I can use that to transition to regular half if you drop the knee, or I can use it to transition to play maybe a deeper guard. My choices are there, though. So along those lines, my job is to kind of like funnel you into tight spaces. If we're playing guard, and the space, quote unquote space, is just your reduced area to play in. Your sandbox is now, instead of an entire box, it's a corner. And yes, you still have the ability to disengage and break off. But while you're engaged with me, that area of movement is severely reduced. My favorite place to play this is top of half and top of mount, and of course the back. But if we're just talking top, when I get to these positions, I'm going chest to chest, and then I am applying a lot of pressure with my own chest. I'm almost curving my back downward, almost if you can picture someone in a computer's chair and they have really good posture, their chest is out, their shoulders are back, chin up. That's the kind of position that I'm playing with my upper body. That forces my weight to come down on their chest in a way that it maximizes the amount of pressure that I can apply. If I'm draped over the top of them, almost like a cave, it takes away all the weight. It's not as beneficial. Yes, I can hug, but I'm using strength when I'm doing that. So I want to create these really tight spaces. I'm pinning the hip with my outside elbow. Sometimes I'm creating a control with the head and arm. Maybe I might be looking or forcing them to look the opposite way with my shoulder pressure. All these things are tight spaces that force the opponent to not be able to move the way they want. The way they bridge is severely limited. They tend to have to bridge the opposite way that's beneficial to them. If I'm in mount, I do a lot of the same thing. I force them to look one way. I'm doing a lot of shoulder pressure. My chest is doing the same thing that I was doing from top of half. My knees are not pinned in on the side of the rib cages. They're kind of flared out so that I can get more surface space, so that when they bridge, I don't have to worry as much. Doesn't mean that I don't get reversed, but it forces them to have to bridge a little differently. All of these things of reducing their ability to move help me quite a bit in getting those submissions that I really want to get. Oftentimes it's head and arm choke, arm bar, maybe a straight arm bar, Americana, Kimuras. All these things are in that wheelhouse because I'm limiting their ability to escape. So they start doing really silly shit, and I'm able to kind of time what they might be doing next. The other thing that I want to go over is playing the long game with grips. It's twofold, really. I want to be the first one to initiate the grips. I'd never want to be second. Second means that I'm responding to the things that they're doing. When I'm first, I can kind of dictate your response, and I'm aware of what's going to happen next. If I grab your wrist with both hands, which I do pretty common, they will often grab one of my wrists they'll grab the nearest wrist, the inside wrist. If they start to break that away, then I grab the wrist of the hand that grabbed me. And it becomes this back and forth. And in that back and forth, if they're not cautious of what can happen next, I sometimes slide into an arm drag. If they are standing over me when we're playing this series of games, then sometimes I release both grips and I place my hands under their knees, along their shins. I hook behind their feet with my feet, and then I push them backwards. If I can get that sweep, great. We call it the dummy sweep. I hit it quite often, and I giggle every time, and sometimes the opponent giggles. It's so stupid. If they are not driven back, then it gives me space to start either getting up or hooking underneath with maybe I want to go to a traditional X guard or a butterfly guard variation, whatever I want to do. But it creates a reaction to what I'm doing. They're no longer anticipating going forward. They're constantly defending something. Grip battles are going to be huge no matter where you are. Standing, kneeling, half guard even, mount to some degree. There's going to be a grip battle when you have the back. There's going to be a grip battle in butterfly. So if you can get really used to being explosive and being first with your grips, it puts them on their heels a little bit. They're no longer looking to advance. Defense is the priority at that point because they don't want to give something up that's going to be super big. They're manually responding to you, and their weight almost shifts backwards at the same time. So those grip battles are my main priority. There's some people that I roll with at the academy where out of the 6 minutes, we might be hand fighting the first 2 until one of us may either makes a mistake or accepts, hey, maybe we get this moving along. And I will sometimes stop the grip battle, allow them to play a little bit. If it's someone that's as advanced or even more so than me, the grip battle is my thing. I am not negotiating on that aspect because if I mess up and they get on top, everything turns into them, and then it's just a headache for me. So the grip battles are going to be huge. They're going to get you into underhooks. They're going to get you to the lapels. They're going to get you to the sleeves, arm drags. So understand how important the grip battle is. So often, newer students will want to get the collar instead of the grip itself, like the hand fighting, and they'll get me, but I'll get them. And because I'm more advanced, my grip is going to be potentially more important than theirs because I know what I can do and I know what they can do, and I might negate what they want to do with my own. And then there's times when you roll against someone who understands that grip battle and just doesn't let you advance. So it's really a give and take. And I understand that it's difficult to understand if you're not really playing it. But for a good week, just tell yourself, I'm not going to grab the collar without the grip battle. And what that sets up is all the other things that I explained earlier. If I can maintain, let's say I maintain a sleeve grip on their left arm. So now that arm can never grab me because I have a really good sleeve grip. My right arm can now grab that collar. So I have not a 2-on-1, but I have 2 grips on one side of their body. We can now start going collar drag. We can now start pushing forward, maybe off balance. There's a lot we can do here. The vice versa, or the other flip side of that is, if they have my sleeve and I can't grab, I'm down a tool now. So think of that in the bigger picture from every position almost. I understand bottom, you may not want to necessarily hand fight the traditional way, but there is a struggle there where you're trying to perhaps isolate an arm so you can bridge and they can't base. So there's a consideration from every position when you're hand fighting. The other thing that we do really well, or the older grapplers do well, is we have a way of saving our energy for when it counts. There's times when I'm going against someone who's bigger, stronger, heavier, maybe more athletic, and when they pass, I go into lockdown mode and I bring my elbows to my rib cage. I bring my hands up on my collar. Sometimes they're on the same side, sometimes they cross. But my main goal is to just keep everything nice and tight. Sometimes I use almost like that Philly shuffle or Philly shell, where one hand, especially in mount, one of my hands will be across the hip and it'll be framing against the hip, and the other one will be up by my neck. And I'm using my shoulder to kind of protect the other side. And why I do this is because it allows me to start framing against the hip and then sliding myself into half guard. These moments where I'm at a disadvantage, my objective is to remain calm, control my breathing, and to make sure that none of my limbs are outside of the car. I heard that recently. I keep everything nice and tight, and I'm waiting for the areas where I can explode or escape. Sometimes those moments are big, explosive bridges, and it's 1-2 seconds, and I'm in a completely different position. Sometimes those are moments where it's more like I nudge, but it's such a nudge that the other person isn't quite aware because they're busy trying to attack. And then I create a slight different angle with the hip, and I shift a little bit further. And some people, they may not even notice any of it because they have a specific goal in mind. They want to get that Americana, that choke, that arm bar, and they're not aware that I've shifted or I've moved 3 pieces on the board so that the next is really slight and it doesn't even look like I did anything. Those are moments where all the energy is being saved. It's going into a resource, and I'm waiting for the moment where I can really get out. The escape is going to be a high energy sometimes, and sometimes it's going to be low, but I save everything for when I absolutely need it. Keep in mind, I don't want to put myself in bad positions where I've saved all this energy, but they've advanced to a position where now I'm dead. But I do want to create these moments like when I'm passing. I might, if we're in half and knee shield is in, I might use just a little bit of pulls with my grips and drive my chest forward and let my weight be what determines which way I want to go. I'm not using any energy. I'm using gravity. I'm using my weight. I'm using my body. And then we start to pass, and they do something that forces me to maybe change direction. When I change direction, that's my energy offload, because I understand that for these next 3 to 5 seconds, I need to get to that desired position. Maybe not the first option, but I need to get to one of the options that I have next quickly without them being able to mount a solid defense. Sometimes it's I'm knee cutting, they push off, and I start to collapse the knee shield, and then I kind of, not cartwheel, but I transition over both legs and into the side control on the opposite side. Or we're in a position where maybe I'm halfway to the position that I want. I'm going to mount, but they have that quarter guard, and now I'm floating. But the float at that moment requires a lot of leg pummeling. I'm using up energy at that moment, but I've been very calculated that when I'm done with that energy, I'm going to be in a really good position. All of this are these weird little intricacies that the older grapplers use. We're not going to use all our strength at all times. We're not going to use all our energy at all times. And we definitely do not want you to have the space. We want you to be constricted. We want you to feel that mental exhaustion of he's like a slow moving avalanche. He got a little deeper on his collar. There's nothing tense about him, still relaxed. He got a little deeper on the collar. You're aware he's gotten deeper. He's now at the point where he has the collar as deep as he wants. I can't break the grip. Now I'm nervous and I'm worried that he's going to be able to secure this choke. He starts to get the other collar with his free hand, and he's getting deeper there and I'm fighting him off. Maybe I completely break that grip, but now he grabs my pants. His outside leg's going over. Now he has you in like that bow and arrow. That's the game that we like to play. We want everything to be like a boa constrictor, a slow moving avalanche, quicksand, where you're limited, you're exhausted from pressure, both physical and mental. And we're just looking for what you will actually give us. We're not forcing anything. We're not forcing a specific choke. We're not forcing an armbar. We're forcing you to respond with a threat of something. Sometimes we want a specific armbar. So we give you the threat of a choke instead. And you have to defend the choke. But I understand in you defending the choke, the arm is mine. So these tactical approaches are really what's, I think, sometimes missing in some of the modern game, that it's so much is invested in scrambling and high energy, explosive energy, that the tactical aspect of inch by inch is kind of lost. The older grapplers have it, not because necessarily they choose that, they just have to have it. I hope this episode helps. If you're a younger guy and you're trying to develop maybe a little bit of that old guy strategy, I highly recommend it. I think that at some point we're all going to get there, no matter how explosive or wiry or high energy you are today in your 20s, maybe early 30s. You're going to get to 40, and this game that I'm discussing is going to be your game. So you might as well develop and put some time into it now so that you can understand it better, and it's part of more of your A game by the time you get to that level. Sometimes injuries bring that in a little quicker, like maybe you have hip injuries or you're not being able to move as fast. And sometimes it's just age itself. I think it's a beautiful game to play. It's not seen as much in competition, but if it's something that you want to play with, please spend some time in it. It's huge for you. If you have any questions, hit me up on dfm.2099 on Instagram, or if you want to work with me, dfmcoaching.com. I love taking questions. Please let me know if you have anything that you want me to review, or you got questions that you need answered. I'm always available. Thank you so much.